All right, welcome back to the Beast Game Podcast, and this review is going to be for The Hustle. It's directed by Chris Addison, who really has a lot of TV credits. It's written by Stanley Shapiro and Paul Hennig, and it's also based off of a movie that came out, I'm not sure if it was 80s, 90s, but it was Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. It had Michael Caine and Steve Martin in it, and this is a remake of that, and it stars Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson. And the synopsis is Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson star as a female scam artist, one low rent and the other high class, who team up to take down the men who have wronged them, which I'm not sure if that's completely accurate. But again, this is based off of, I wouldn't even call it a classic. It's kind of one of those middle of the pack comedy movies, which was Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. And the whole point of that, Michael Caine, the high class criminal, Steve Martin was the criminal just doing anything to get by. Both of them were taking advantage of vulnerable women. And eventually they start clashing and face off. So this one, more or less, is beat for beat similar to that. It's been a very long time since I last saw Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. I can't even remember when. But when I watched the movie, things started to come back. I will have to say that this one is not very good. It follows a similar formula. Anne Hathaway plays the British character, which I guess she does the okay British accent, even though she's American. She's running a con on a person in a casino. Anne Hathaway notices that Rebel Wilson is also doing a con. So eventually they team up. Anne Hathaway showing Rebel Wilson how she does it. Rebel Wilson pushing back against how Anne Hathaway does her cons. This movie is not very good. The type of comedy that is involved in, at least on Rebel Wilson's side, it happens a lot in Melissa McCarthy movies. Julian Dennison, who does work with Taika Waititi, who's also in Deadpool, and Rebel Wilson, they all do the same stick. And it is not funny. It's reminiscent of Chris Farley. It's like, hey, look at me. People consider me to be not the shape, size that other people should be. So that's supposed to be funny just automatically, which is not. And then you have a lot of pratfalls and slapstick comedy that's supposed to come from that. So Anne Hathaway is teaching Rebel Wilson how to parkour over top of objects, and the whole thing for Rebel Wilson is like, oh, well, I can't do that, so I have to step around, or I have to like try to climb over. And I'm not sure why that's supposed to be funny. There's just not a lot of comedic connectivity that they both have, so that it's just like two characters in the same movie, but you're supposed to have some chemistry, and there's no chemistry between them. The whole entire story, they're just running cons. So think of it, Ocean's 11, or like even recently Ocean's 8. It just does not really seem like a well fleshed out script, even when you're basing that script off of a whole entire movie that had existed, which was, again, I don't really have any affinity for that movie, but it's well received. People like it. But this one, classic Rebel Wilson stick. If some music comes up, she has to start twerking for some reason. And then Anne Hathaway, I guess she might be the best thing about this movie. Because this is so modern, the whole con for this one just revolves around Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson trying to con this guy that created an app, which the guy is played by Alex Sharp. I think his name is Thomas. So it's just nothing but skit, ad lib. A lot of times the scene should be over a lot sooner. And this movie's only like an hour and a half. It really needs to be 70 minutes. I mean, this is a SNL skit. This is a YouTube skit. This isn't a full-fledged movie. And because, again, this movie's just unfunny, other than it looks nice because Anne Hathaway's character owns a villa in France. So it looks nice, but it's just so unfunny. A lot of it has to do with the chemistry between Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson. Just the fact that the way that the story progresses just isn't entertaining. It isn't funny. I didn't laugh. After the first initial scene, I was like, yeah, this is going to be bad. For that, I'm going to give this a 1. I contemplated giving it a 0, and it probably does deserve a 0, but from the music, from the direction, from all the side characters, like there really is not a point for this movie to exist. sometimes when people want to revisit middle of the road comedies from whatever era, and then we decide to revamp these with different characters, it just doesn't work out well. A lot of times I think people really need to think, will this movie actually do something? Will this movie actually work? And a lot of times, no. So that's the Beast Gang Podcast.